So a lot of the times people have habits or behaviors in their life that they do and they genuinely have no idea why they do them. They never have even been asked the question, why do you vape? Why do you overeat? Why do you drink alcohol when you don't want to and it makes you feel hungover when you don't want to feel hungover? So it's really important to kind of investigate the why behind our actions so that we can get to the root of the issue and hopefully eliminate it, not through a willpower method or anything like that. So once you understand why you're doing something, you can attack that instead of attacking the symptom, which in most people's lives are overeating, vaping when they don't want to be, drinking alcohol when they don't want to be, looking at porn when it's not serving them. Get the point? Okay, so let's move forward. All right, so before I get into the personal psychology of what's going on in your mind and why you vape, we're going to talk a little bit about society's role. So at the early turn of the 20th century, around World War I, cigarettes gained a lot of popularity, and they're actually endorsed by surgeons and the medical professionals because they were kind of designed to give you courage and relax you. That's how they at least advertised them, right? So during World War I, cigarettes were really gaining popularity. There was no concern about health risks or anything like that. So a lot of people ended up being lifetime smokers because when they were young in the war, they were pretty much told that cigarettes were going to benefit them in a bunch of different ways. So snapshot forward to World War II, and the cigarettes were still being given out for free to give courage to soldiers. So you can see there's a whole progression here, like during 1914 all the way up to 1945-ish. There's like a good 30 years where cigarettes were looked at as something that was praised and good for you and take the stress off. And there were really no thinking about the negative health effects or anything of nicotine or cigarettes. Okay, so just in case anyone doesn't know, the first actual studies, scientific studies that came out and confirmed that cigarettes had negative health effects and could be related to cancer were the 1950s. So again, imagine you have about a 40-year gap where cigarettes are gaining popularity very quickly and they're not being really advertised as anything dangerous to you. They're being told that there's only benefits to smoking. Now, I understand today's video is about vapes, and here's where we're going to kind of make the connection. So today, in 2022, there are vapes being made that are really advertised as being less dangerous than cigarettes, and they're advertised in all of our favorite fun candies and fruits and flavors that make it really appealing. So the people that are designing these vapes today, they're hitting on a couple of different of our dopamine circuits. Not only are they hitting on the nicotine that's addictive, they're also hitting on the it's not so bad for you as cigarettes are, and they're hitting on the sugary dopamine circuits that we already have in our minds from the unhealthy foods that we eat. So they're hitting like every single angle they can for us to get addicted and remain so. All right, guys, so now that I've given society enough credit for why you're personally vaping, let's look at the personal psychology of what's going on. So for anyone who doesn't know anything about psychology or emotion, the reason that we are motivated to do anything is because of an emotion that we think it will make us feel. So I'm going to repeat that because that's like a fundamental thing to understand in our lives about motivation. The reason we do anything or want anything is because how we think it will make us feel. So I know what you're thinking, that's overly simplistic about motivation and that can't be right, but that really is what we do. So there's a study in psychology where they implanted a chip or they did something with a wire where they took away the dopamine receptors from rats. So when they didn't feel good from doing something, they no longer got a dopamine rush from eating food. They literally stopped doing that altogether. So rats, when they did not have their positive emotion working correctly in their lives, they literally sat there and died. They wouldn't even eat because there was no positive emotion coming from food. There was no incentive to go and eat the food, so they just died. So now look at human beings and we have the exact same physical structure. The only thing that's different is that we have a prefrontal cortex that allows us to think into the future and be forward thinking. So back to the you do anything for the way you think it'll make you feel. So let's look at some examples. Somebody comes up to me and they say, I bought this vehicle because I need it for work. It wasn't to make me feel good, right? And you start asking them questions. Well, why did you actually buy that vehicle? You bought a truck, right? For example, why did you buy a truck? Well, I bought a truck because I needed to get to work. Well, why do you want to get to work? Well, I need to make sure that I'm saving money so I can survive. Well, why do you want to survive? Why do you want to make money? It's to make you feel good, right? You assume that if you have a stable job or you have income or you have a vehicle to get you there, that there's going to be some kind of positive emotion on the other side of it, right? Like we do everything because we think it'll make us feel better. I marry this specific person because I think that they're going to make me happy, right? That's why you marry someone, or that my life will be more positive with this person in my life. I buy this specific car because I think that it's going to make me happy. It makes me feel good to own this specific car. Therefore, I bought this car to make me feel different than I do now, better. I drink alcohol at parties because I'm anxious and I want to get rid of that anxiety. Or I drink because I'm having a good time and I want to have a better time. I hit this vaporizer because I don't like how I feel right now and I want to feel differently, better. I want to feel better always. Nobody wants to feel worse, right? So all of our actions are motivated by some kind of emotion on the other side, and it's almost always a positive emotion, right? All right, so this is pretty much a universal rule that what we're doing is to get to a better emotion on the other side. Now, there's one caveat when it comes to smoking or vaping, anything with nicotine, is that nicotine is addictive. So in addition to us mentally thinking that we're going to feel better, whatever it is that we're telling ourselves about vapes, I use it to get rid of anxiety. I want to not feel anxiety, or I use it to calm down, or I use it because it feels good. In addition to our mental stories telling us that that's what nicotine does, we're also having a physical dependency. So now we have two different things working against us with nicotine, right? We personally believe, we mentally believe that it's good for us, and we physically now are craving it. So our body says, no, you need that, it's good. It releases dopamine. So now your body and your mind are working towards the vaping is good for us narrative, right? So that's an important thing to understand, is that the drug addiction itself, like, it's not a physical, you're not gonna die from nicotine withdrawal, right? You're gonna be uncomfortable, you're gonna be irritable, you're gonna be like feeling like you need something that you don't have, but that's very, very mild. Really, realistically, it's a very mild withdrawal. You're not gonna die. It's not like a benzo or an alcohol withdrawal where you might actually die and you're in physical, or like an opioid withdrawal where you're like physically can't control yourself. It's a mild withdrawal from a drug. It lasts about 3 weeks. So if you can get past that first 3 weeks, then it's all just a psychological attachment to vaping, right? So why are you watching this video? Most likely because you've decided that your life would be better without being addicted to drugs in it, right? I would agree. That's why I'm making this video. And I just kind of want to remind you, like, if you're telling yourself that you want to be addicted to nicotine, or that nicotine has benefits for you in your life, you're not going to quit. That's the psychological part that keeps people addicted, right? Or you think it's deprivation without nicotine. You're thinking to yourself, if I don't have nicotine in my life will have less positive emotion. Remember, we do things because we think that it will make us feel better, more positive emotion at the other side of it. If we're vaping, there's some part of our minds that we're allowing to tell us it's good for us. There's positives, right? A lot of people come up to me and they say, I vape because it releases my anxiety. But if you think about it and really think about this, because a lot of people have never done this, does vaping actually give you less anxiety? Or is it because you're addicted to a drug chemically that you're anxious in the first place and restless? And when you use that drug, it relieves the anxiety that the drug addiction has created. Just something to think about. All right, so now that we kind of understand that all motivation is driven by how we think we're going to feel, we have to understand what's going on in our mind when we want a vaporizer. So when we want nicotine, there's a negative emotion typically that precedes us using nicotine, and it comes from a thought. So this is really important. This is like cognitive behavioral therapy. Thoughts create emotions, and emotions drive actions, right? So it's pretty basic, but that's what's happening. And most of us are completely unaware of this process, which is why we stay addicted to nicotine our whole lives, because we try to deal with quitting without understanding what's going on psychologically. So for example, I could have a thought in my head that says, I need to hit my vape, right? It sounds like a pretty straightforward thought. What emotion is that gonna drive? The urge to hit my vape. Now I'm urging, that's an emotion, I'd say. So thought, I need to hit this, urge, and then what's gonna happen? Before you know it, you're gonna have your vape in your hand, up to your mouth, before you've ever consciously been aware of that process. So what do we need to do? We need to first become conscious of this process that's happening every single time before we hit a vape, right? We need to become aware of the thoughts that we're telling ourselves, that we're allowing ourselves to believe, and then we can start to change those thoughts eventually. But really the main thing is that we have to become aware of it. So if you have a thought, anxiety is relieved by nicotine, or my vape, whatever you want to say, my vape is going to cure this anxiety. If you have that thought, you're going to be obviously driven to hit your vape, right? So the main thing there is understanding what thoughts you're having. So if you believe that anxiety, if you believe a bunch of good things about nicotine, you're going to end up using nicotine your whole life, right? So the whole idea behind this work is not that you're trying to push nicotine away and resist the urge to hit it. It's to change the desire for nicotine. If you change your beliefs and thoughts about nicotine and align them with reality, then you no longer have the urge or the desire to smoke nicotine, right? Does that make sense? So a big part of what I want to teach you today, in addition to the thoughts create emotions and emotions lead to action, is that life is supposed to be good and bad. Again, anything we do in life is to make us feel better at the other end of it, right? So we're told in America, and I'm sure this exists in other countries, that we should be happy all the time, right? We're pretty much explicitly told that, but we're also told that subliminally through advertisements and substances, right? So if You've all seen the Coca-Cola commercials. Have a Coke, share a smile, be happy. Are you not happy? You should have a Coke. Are you not feeling good? You should go vape outside and take that cigarette break. Are you not happy? The casino's open 24/7. You can get a massage. Are you not happy? Well, you can get a job that's going to pay you a lot of money. Are you not happy? Then you should escape that through alcohol. Go drink something. You're not having a good day, rough day at work, go drink. This is where the problem in our lives lies, and this is why people use substances to escape. Because when we believe that life should be happy all the time, and inevitably it isn't, we think there's something wrong and we have to fix it. How do we typically fix that? We go to external sources like nicotine, porn, gambling, alcohol, and food to get out of that mindset, right? I don't feel good. I want to feel better. Let's go externally to the vape to feel better. Ooh, now I feel better. I have that drug in my body. That's what we do, right? That's totally backwards. The truth of the situation is negative emotion is part of life, right? We don't have to escape negative emotion. If we're uncomfortable and we want to hit our vape, we have three options. We can either numb over that discomfort by hitting the vape and using an external source to fix that internal emotional problem. That's option one. That's what a lot of us do, myself included, for a long time. Option two is to resist it, right? I don't want that vape. I don't want that vape. I don't need it. It's something I shouldn't want. I don't want it. And then eventually it pops back and it just explodes. When you resist emotion, you're pushing on it, right? Kind of like, Einstein says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So if you're resisting and pushing and pushing and pushing, that's pushing back. That's just like literally a law of physics, but it's the same emotionally. I'm pushing and I'm just gonna hold it and it's gonna be a willpower. I'm gonna white knuckle this and then it explodes in your face. I need to hit that vape. You ever seen that SpongeBob episode where he's like, water, I don't need it, I don't need it, and then he explodes? That's what we're doing when we're resisting. So again, you can either numb by reacting to that discomfort and using an external source to solve it. We can resist, push until it explodes and we end up vaping again. Or there's a third option. We can allow that negative emotion is a part of life and literally allow it in our bodies without reacting to it. Wow. We are not taught this. This is incredible, and we're not taught this. So how do you allow negative emotion in your body? Literally, people don't know how to feel emotion. You sit down, take a deep breath, close your eyes, find it in your body, right? Like if you're urging for a vape, where is that in your body? Close your eyes. Ooh, my hands are kind of shaky. My stomach's turning a little bit. My head's light. And like my feet are ready to go. I'm like physically uncomfortable because I want to hit that vape. And that's okay. And I understand I'm having that negative emotion. I'm going to allow it in my body. Wow. That's how you quit vaping. You understand that negative emotion is okay. It's a part of life. You allow it. You understand what thoughts you have about vaping that are encouraging you to keep doing it, right? Like, just realize that negative emotion is a part of life, but if we have thoughts and beliefs that are misaligned with reality, that are encouraging us to use vape, then it's gonna create a lot more negative emotion, right? If I believe that vaping is good for me, and then I'm not vaping and I'm trying to allow that emotion, it's gonna be way harder to allow that emotion because I have a belief in the back of my head saying, why aren't you vaping? It's good for you. It's good for that anxiety, right? Now, if I change my thought to actually vaping is creating way more anxiety than it's helping, now when I'm doing that allowing of emotion, it's much easier, right? I can allow that I still want it. I can allow that that's still an urge I have without reacting to it. But if I'm having beliefs and thoughts in the back of my head that are saying, go do it, it's good for you, it's much harder to do that process. So you see, it's not just an allowing of emotion thing, it's also being responsible for what thoughts you have and trying to align them more with something that would give you better results, right? So that's pretty much my intro to why you're vaping and a great intro on how to stop vaping, okay? I'm gonna do coaching on vaping. This is what I do, is vape-free coaching. So you should sign up for me. My links are in my bio. Check me out, check out my other videos, check out my TikTok, and we're gonna go for it. So thank you guys so much for watching and have a good rest of your day. Hopefully this helps.